Hey, you guys, you are in for a treat. If you do not know her yet, thank you, Barb, for coming on today. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Martha. It's so fun to see you again. Oh, this is what I'm feeling. This is why I'm feeling. This is what I need to do in order to work through that and get back to the moment. And
Because you're so closed off and guarded, trying to not let people see who you are.
I was 21 and feeling like it was all over for me, right? A couple 100,000 books published every year, and maybe only 10 people will read yours. But for those 10 people, you are impacting them.
To be able to support and up level each other.
Living the life that you want to live, even if it's not the niche that you want to do. I want to do this. I don't know how. I'm afraid to do this. I don't know. Like that is, don't let any of that stop you.
We're all going to give all the good vibes, even in the future, whenever you're listening to this. Hey, you guys, welcome back to Home Based Revolution. We are here with, oh my gosh, my friend Barb Allen. You are in for a treat. If you do not know her yet, be ready because you're going to love her. By the end of this, you're going to be like, and where do I find her on the social medias? Where do I find her website? Where do I find all of the things? Because Barb is as real as it gets. But here's the deal. Barb and I are friends. So I don't typically do like the bio thing for Barb. I'm like, I love Barb. But here, I want you to know the details behind Barb. So listen to this. So, excuse me, she's an inspiring keynote speaker, award-winning author, and entrepreneur who has turned personal tragedy into a powerful mission of resilience and empowerment. As a Gold Star widow, Barb has navigated immense challenges and emerged as a beacon of hope for many. She is the host of Flex Your Freedom podcast and co-founder of the Great American Syndicate. Through her work as a writer, ghostwriter, and real estate agent, Barb empowers others to achieve their dreams while maintaining a fulfilling personal life. So today she's going to share her journey, insights, excuse me, and insights on balancing professional responsibilities with family and strategies for overcoming adversity. So let's get at it. Thank you, Barb, for coming on today. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Martha. It's so fun to see you again.
Yes. We have so gosh, how far back do we go? Is it 3 years now? Is it
That
3 or
sounds
4
right.
years?
4 years sounds right.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And this is another Steve Sims relationship build. Steve, if you guys don't follow Steve Sims, make sure that you follow him. It's Steve D Sims, okay? Because there's other Steve Sims out there. But
There's no other Steve Sims out there. I don't care
yes,
what their name is.
right?
No.
He's like the connector's connector of like putting people together where he's like, hey, you need to know this person. And he's going to say it in a really gruff way, but with all of the heart in the world. And he put us together.
Yeah.
And, they were working on Great American Syndicate and the whole like the events and that sort of thing. And I got to speak once and then help host another time, which was a whole lot of fun. But
God bless you. That I'm glad that that's the takeaway you had from that. A whole lot of fun.
it was a blast. I got to spend days just making fun of Anthony. Like that was my, I mean, I will do that until
True.
the cows come home.
True.
So Barb, let's talk. So the people that listen to this podcast are typically people that are working a home-based business or they are trying to. And essentially, we both know that home-based business, because real estate is the same way, really. We both know that home-based businesses is really it's our way of taking control back of our lives, right? And like we're going to do things our way. We choose to go a different path than the norm. And I know that a lot of what really drives you is is family balance, is doing things your own way. And where do you think that you got that from through life? Like where'd you start seeing that? Was it like in Little Barb? Was Little Barb kind of like, kicking back against social norms?
Little Barb was a loner.
Yeah.
I was the loser in school. I was the one who got bullied. And honestly, this is going to start off heavy. I don't mean it to. I promise I'll get lighter. But since you asked if I'm going to give the real answer about Little Barb, um, I was that girl that was suicidal in seventh grade. The hardcore harassment, bullying, unhappy life, and all this. Like I was genuinely, so I was that girl, right? And
Yeah.
like genuinely suicidal. I was just depressed and sad. And so I just naturally withdrew into myself. I did have six brothers and sisters, including a twin brother, but I still tried to kind of withdraw. And I just learned it was safer for me all around not to be seen and not to be noticed. Um, and because nothing good happened when anybody noticed me. Right? It
Yeah.
was much easier. So I was the girl that like hid in the woods and would sit there and have chipmunks eating out of my hands and that kind of thing. Animals became my allies and my friends. And over the years through high school and all that, like on the outside, I was the cheerleader, but I would hide in the bathroom between school and practice because no one wanted to hang out with me, kind of thing, right? So
Oh,
it was
wow.
like that outside exterior. You never know what's beneath somebody, right? And that was what was lurking in me. And it wasn't really until I met Lou, my first husband, and I'll explain the first later, obviously, but
Yeah.
that I found somebody that just believed in me, and helped me discover a whole new world of possibility and potential and all that. And that was when I really began to feel free to express myself. And he marched to his own drum. He had his own style, his own way of doing things, and it was very infectious and energetic and just charismatic. And there were a handful of people that just didn't get him or enjoy him, but for the most part, I mean, it was very rare to find somebody that didn't instantly like want to get to know him better. He was just that person. So that's what kind of turned it all around for me and changed it all. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And I love how these people just end up showing up in our lives, right? Like as I don't know, do this already, but like they show up in our lives
Yeah.
as like this like our safety net, like the thing that allows us to keep moving and keep going. And like that's just it's a very uh it's cathartic. It's cathartic. It's cool to know that life has those moments for us, I think. But
Yeah, I was 21 when I met him, and I had already said, well, I'm too old. Nothing good is going to happen to me. I'm 21, and like,
I'm too
oh,
old.
that's it. It's over for me, um, kind of thing. So yeah, it's just funny how that happens. But then in terms of going to where I am now, and I know we'll backtrack a little, but ironically, I love that you mentioned Steve Sims at first because it was when Dave, um, my now husband, I'm married to, he gave me Steve Sims' book, Blue Fishing.
Uh,
And I was like, that was the first book that I'd ever read that had any kind of like entrepreneurial kind of spin to it. Like I'd always felt like I didn't fit in. My family, except for my twin brother, he does life his own way on his own terms. And so that's interesting, right? We're both like outside. My family, they're all like, they fit the pattern, they fit this, they're like, they
yeah.
know what they want. They have the structured job, the structured life. They have this and that. And it's my twin brother and I are like, like, but we never really fit. And we didn't know that. But I never knew that that was okay. I always thought, like, what is wrong with me? Like, why can't I be happy doing what everybody else is happy doing? Like, why don't I like this? Like, I'm supposed to like this, right? And then I would hear other people say, well, you're supposed to hate work. Work is supposed to be hard. Suck it up for 20 years and get your pension. And you could try this, but you'll never make it. And so, or, oh, you want to be a writer, you want to do, and so and it wasn't necessarily intentional, right? But it was just people that this is what they knew. And sometimes they thought they were helping me, protecting me from disappointment or failure. But so Steve Sims, I read that book and I'm like, wow, that's like oh my gosh, there's others. There's others.
There's more.
So Dave kind of introduced me into the whole world via Steve Sims. That was my entrance.
I love that. I love that. There's more of them out there, and we're all crazy, and you get us all together in a room, and it's like, who even
Unbelievable.
knows?
Yeah. Yep. I went to an event, Kent Clothier event, in Arizona with Dave, and I got to meet people in person, and I was like, where have you all been all my life? You know, it was
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's important to note because if you don't know if what I think it was Einstein that said if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will it's something
It won't
it's
go well.
stupid.
Yeah.
I don't
It,
know. Something about it's dumb or it's stupid.
yeah.
And that's the thing. But whenever you're in a room with people just like you, you're not the black sheep. You're not the weirdo. You're not like you're just normal. And and it allows you to open up like
Right.
professionally, but also in a receivership of success, I think. It allows you to open up in a way that you just can't otherwise because you're so closed off and guarded trying to like not let people see who you are because you're just this freak that it really just it allows you to be awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. It's right. And that's one reason I love seeing you do what you do, Martha, because you connect people. And I know, when Steve introduced us, I could just feel your energy right away. And I'm like, she's real. She's just, there's no schmarminess, snake oil. It's like, I may not necessarily understand what you get. It may not be like the correct fit for me, but your spirit and your mindset and your energy and your intent and your purpose, that is my fit. And so that's where I kind of connected with you and dialed in. So I think it's important doing what you're doing too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. Well, now let's backtrack into so people I want them to have a full um 360-degree understanding of who Barb is like through this in as much as not like a this is your life sort of thing but kind of to understand because we've known each other for years now, and I just could not love you more. And I want for people that are listening just to understand, quite frankly, why I love you so much.
Oh,
Uh, but tell us what. So let's go back to Lou and kind of like walk us through what happened there, if that's okay.
yeah. Um, and I mean, I'll just break off little slices of it to fit into here, right? But one slice I do want to break off because I know it resonates with you and fits, and I get emotional talking about this, so just roll with me. But I know faith is big to you, and so I'm going to tell you this story, and I think you're going to love it because it pertains. I mentioned I was 21 and feeling like it was all over for me, right? So I had stayed at college. It was like the summer of that June, say that I was 21, and I'm sitting on this dock and I'm just feeling alone and like my life is over. I'd gone through all this turmoil and all this, and I'm like, where am I? You have those moments, right? I'm sure everybody listening has those moments too, where you look up into the universe and you're like, what is, like, who am I? What am I doing? And you pray, and I talk to God, and I was like, listen, maybe I've been asking for the wrong thing because I've always wanted someone to like, all I really wanted in life at that point, I was only 21. I just wanted someone to love and walk through my entire life with me, be old what I saw other people have. I wanted that, and I felt, and I felt like I wasn't going to get it, but I'm like, maybe it's because, all right, maybe I'm asking for the wrong thing. I'm like, in my 21-year-old mind, I said, I don't know what it's like to be genuinely loved by a person that completely and that fully. I'm like, so I just want to know it once. So if it's not something that I get to keep forever, if there's somebody in this world that will come along and love me, even if I don't get to keep them, if it's someone that's not here for my entire life, please send me that person because I'll know it then and it'll change me. And I just want the gift of knowing. And I promise I will cherish that person, and I will be so grateful for it, and I will do my best to honor that. And less than 2 months later, I met Lou. And 10 months later, we were engaged. And about a year later, we were married. And so it went fast. And so now I kind of joke around. I'm like, hey guys, it's great to pray and you have to really mean it and honor it and cherish it. I'm like, but be careful what you ask for. You know, if those are the terms that you set down, you better be ready to meet them, right? And you can't go back on it. Like you can't say, you know, I had 11 years with Lou before he was killed. From the day I met him until he was killed, and 9 of those I was his wife, and I wasn't there initially. You know, at first everything was happening and all that, but I worked back to a place where I went back to that conversation I had as a 21-year-old on the dock with God and that ask I'd made and realized, you know, everyone's like, you know, why does this happen? Why is, oh Lord, if there's a God, why doesn't he happen? I'm like, well, there's a God. He did answer my prayers. I asked for somebody very specifically, even if I didn't get to keep them, you know? And so that actually helped me grab back onto my faith, you know, afterwards, after losing them. So yeah, that was the faith part of it. But I did in 2005, we'd been married for just under 10 years and just over 9 years actually. We had 4 boys. They were 6, 5, 3, and 1. And I was just we were just hit our stride. You know those early broke years, Martha, where you're just struggling and you don't have any
I
money
do.
and oh my God. And it was important to us that we raise our kids, not daycare. And this is not casting like any kind of hate towards people or shade towards people who, you know, go that other route. But for us, um, even if we had been able to afford daycare, which we couldn't, it was ridiculous. I'm sure it's more so. We were just like, we want our kids like in our home with us. That was just the right call for us, even though we knew it was going to be hard. So I was raising 4 kids and crazy enough working part-time real estate back then. And Lou was a high school teacher and a National Guard officer. And we had just made it through. We had made it through bankruptcy and hard times. And I had been in the hospital, critically ill. Like all this stuff had happened. We had bought our first house and we had enough money left over at the end of every month to go out once a night and have a babysitter. And who was better? We had 4 kids. They were healthy. We were done having woof. Okay, those were some crazy years. Like
Yeah.
let's get to it now, right? Like now we can really enjoy the fruits of our labor, and all we had to do was get through a 6-month deployment to Iraq. He had been gone for months on end after 9/11. The National Guard really turned into a sort of full-time military then. You know, he was on the Whitestone Bridge for months. He was deployed for training for months. So he was all over the place. And then it came his turn to go to Iraq, and he was very committed to doing so. But 10 days after he got there, he was killed by the staff sergeant of the unit who was not a good guy. So that sort of upended everything, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so you I can't ever get through this story without losing it because I'm even hearing more of the story now than I had heard before or hearing in a different maybe a different way I'm hearing it or experiencing it in a different way. I'm not sure what it is, but it doesn't matter. Um so you had you know your whirlwind romance that you wanted and then started having babies and then you have your broke years and you're getting through and then you have you know you said you had bankruptcy that you went through so it was just like it was all of those we know what the 20s are like,
Yeah.
right? Like in my 20s it was
Yeah.
chaos, absolute chaos. And
Yes.
you're just like if I can just get through this,
Right.
right? If I can just get through this, then the rest of it's got to be easier than this. It's got to be
Yeah.
easier. And
Yes.
and you said all you had to do was get through this 6-month deployment. And then 10 days into it, what did you hear? Like what did so they I know that they called you.
Nope. They showed up at my door.
Oh, they showed up. I'm sorry. Okay. So what happened here?
So I had actually been up all night waiting to hear back from him. We had video chatted with the boys the day before, and there were some other things that had happened. So in my heart, I knew he was gone. I had the like I was just punched in the gut, like fell over on my kitchen table. Something wasn't right. Like something like so there were like messages coming to me. And I
Yeah.
don't you believe it, not believe it, but I don't have time to get into all of those, but there were. And so I'd been up all night terrified. Because he had been supposed to message me back and I missed his call. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, I hear these heavy steps outside my front door, and the doorbell screams through the house, the quiet house. And I jump up and go running to the door, and there are the two men in uniform, and one guy is standing behind them, and another guy, and ma'am, Mrs. Allen, Mrs. Lewis Allen, that whole thing, and poof, like just it was literally like something picked me up and just slammed me into the wall, and I was not the like stoic, whatever, brave. I mean, I came undone.
I love
Undone.
that about you.
I
I
just
absolutely love
feel
that.
I feel I'm an emotional person, not that people that hold it together don't feel and aren't emotional, but like you really kind of just how I roll. Like so I feel like I love hard, I hurt hard. And I came undone for a long time, right? But
Yeah.
that's how that happened. And then eventually, within a couple of days, we started hearing more. First, they said he was killed in his sleep, but I knew that wasn't true because he was supposed to call
I
me.
didn't
And
know they said that.
yeah, they said it was a mortar attack. He was killed in his sleep. I'm like, no, he wasn't, because I knew he had a video capabilities there, and we were supposed to talk, and he would have called me. I had an MRI he wanted to know the results of, and he wasn't going to not call me. Like he wasn't going to just go to, and I had missed his call anyway, so I knew that. I'm like, no, I don't think he was, but okay, like if you say so. It's the military telling you this, like,
Yeah.
and then I a couple of days later, after they assign you your military person as a casualty assistance officer, your CAO, and he'd been with us, and he's sort of gonna like tell you what's going on and run you through the services and the funeral and bringing it back, all the ceremonies, the paperwork, all blah blah, right? He's like your escort through hell, really, like your personal escort through hell. And I had said, look, I'm really confused over all this information I'm getting. I need to speak to Captain Philip Esposito. He's loose friends. He's the commander of the unit. And I knew that he would give me the straight story. I'm like, what is going on? Just let me talk to Phil. And my CAO's face goes white, and he said, ma'am, Captain Esposito was also killed in the attack. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Woo, and so, yeah, condensing the story, they were killed by the staff sergeant of the unit who was stealing from supply and just not a good person. And so Phil, Captain Esposito, was chaptering him out. And he was Martinez was the supply sergeant. He was going to lose his job and be chaptered out of the military and all these other things. And Lou was coming over specifically to help Phil make that all happen. And so Martinez detonated a mine outside Phil's office window, and he knew Lou and Phil were in there. And then he threw some grenades around to simulate an attack. And that was a 3.5 year second layer of hell going through the court march. I went so suddenly, I'm this mom. I'm a mom. I have 4 boys. I like jump in puddles and get dirty, and I got dogs, and I'm trying to work, and like I'm just this mom. And suddenly we're on the front page of newspapers, and there are press conferences in our front yard. If it bleeds, it leads. That's really true. They wanted to know. Reporters following me around, calling me, and military colonels, generals, White House, like all this stuff. And I'm like, what is going? And then I'm going to Kuwait. I'm in Kuwait on Camp Arifjan for the first hearing against the guy that killed my husband. So me and the other widow are like in Kuwait on Halloween, and there's the guy that killed my husband, and they're like, it is just a constant ba 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 ba. And meantime, I'm trying to figure out 4 boys in various ages. Each one of them is at a different developmental, emotional age. How do I tell them this? How do I do this? How do I guide them through this? What am I supposed to say when my 4-year-old says, Mommy, don't worry, it's okay. I wished on a star, so Daddy's coming home to us. Daddy will be back because I wished on a star. Like, how do, like, the stuff that's coming. Um, so it was just a lot. It was a lot. And the 3.5 years of a court martial process where you're just re-traumatized. You're really just re-traumatized. You're just kept in a constant state of trauma because every time you start to catch a breath, there's another hearing, there's another phone call, there's another email. You find out something more. You're hearing all this testimony about the person you love and how he was killed. And my husband had a couple hours, and I got a phone call at the wake telling me his last words, tell my wife and kids I love them. That was how I found out he wasn't killed in his sleep. And so it's just hard. And then you have grief is like a blender. You put everybody into it,
Yeah.
all your relationships, all your perceptions of people, all people's perceptions of you, all your perceptions of life, and you just throw it in a blender. And what comes out is another big sloppy mess. And so relationships are blown up and created along with this. It's not good, Martha. It was not good. It
I just And I
wasn't good.
think the reason I'm hearing so many details now that I didn't know is because I never ask you about this stuff. And it's because I don't want to re-traumatize. Like I don't
Yeah,
and
I
I
appreciate
think it's so like I appreciate you getting into it here because even as I asked, I was like, oh,
it.
like I you but I appreciate you talking about this because there are people dealing with different types of trauma, not necessarily the same, but
Correct.
trauma is trauma. And so, like, for the people that are listening to this, that are here, like, that are maybe having gone through trauma, but maybe haven't even dealt with it, like where it's just, you just go. Right.
Mhm.
There's a point in the beginning where you just go and you're like, I don't know, I have to live and I
Right.
have to keep these alive and I have to like we have to make it's got to be okay. Like something just has to be okay right now. And so I would love to get into like your resilience and like what you because I know you speak on resilience a lot, which of course you should. Um what are the things that you lean on for your own resilience? Like how do you um how do you continue on or in those days especially where it was so ripe, but even today because grief has waves, right? I mean it's still, I'm sure it's not, we're not ever not gonna experience that in some capacity, right? But
Yeah,
what do you
actually,
find it?
that's one of the points I make about grief. Because they always give you're either taught the 5 or 7 stages of grief, and I'm like, that's not okay to end it there because you feel like you're failing or you're doing it wrong because the last stage is acceptance, right? Oh, I've accepted it. I hate closure. I hate the word closure. I cannot stand it. It is so
Noted.
misleading. It is so misleading,
Yeah.
and it really can help people feel like they're failing or feel like they're never going to be okay, right? So I feel like the one of the most important things that I always like to tell people, and this grief, by the way, applies not just to death of a person you love. It can be the loss of a job, the loss of a home, the loss of a dream. You can have an illness. You can miss it. You can funnel it down to everyday experiences, right? You're grieving the light you missed, the flight you can really break it down and then apply those lessons. And so, but especially for the bigger experiences of grief, I always want to make sure people understand that there's 2 extra stages you need to accept, and it's going to change everything for you. Oh, I got a tornado alert, sorry, on my phone.
Oh my word.
Um, we'll just put that over here. It's fine.
Well, if you gotta run, just let us know.
It's not even a tornado. The wind is like, whew, that's okay. We're cool. Um, it's wild out there. Okay. So,
Oh my gosh.
this is
Is it a
hilarious.
watch or a warning, girl?
Yeah, and the trees are like, shoo.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
so at any rate, but you have to understand that forgiveness is another necessary stage of grief. You have to forgive yourself, and this is something I still work on. I'm sort of trapped in this stage. You have to forgive yourself for whatever it is you feel you did or didn't do that created the situation that you are grieving. Um, whether it is a missed opportunity or whatever. For me, I got stuck in all the ways I thought I failed Lou and how he deserved better and he didn't have more. And then in all the ways I failed as a mom, which is a very big part of grief, feeling like I wasn't leading my kids through their lives without their dad the way that they deserve to be led. And I'll probably deal with that for the rest of my life. And then the last step is repeat, because instead of acceptance, you should get rid of well, you can keep acceptance in, but repeat should be after, because no matter how comfortable you get or how much you grow and like, okay, I understand this happened, I accept that this has happened to me and I need to move forward, you're going to repeat the cycles. I was just out hiking with Dave 2 days ago, and we're in the woods. It's a beautiful day, and this couple comes down the hill, and they have two cute little boys who are, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old. And they're joking and laughing around together, and they're just adorable. It's adorable, adorable little boys, a cute little family. And I see the mom smiling, looking at her husband. He's looking down, and bam, I was hit. I was hit with like, oh my gosh, like that's what was taken from it. Like that's what it would have been like. Like I didn't, not only did Lou lose his life, he lost his life. My kids lost their dad. I lost this, like my kids lost, and I was just hit with this wave of grief on a beautiful day, getting to be in the woods with out of nowhere. I was feeling like good about things. And so it happens, but I was able to recognize it.
Yeah.
And like, instead of it just ruining my whole day or demeanor, I was able to like recognize, oh, this is what I'm feeling. This is why I'm feeling. This is what I need to do to in order to work through that and get back to the moment and be grateful for the moment. And I was able to go through everything I needed to go through and work it out and still enjoy the day and get to the top of the mountain with Dave, my amazing husband now, and not let it crash us. But there was a time when that would have crashed me because I didn't understand that it was going to I'm 19 years out, right? Oh, you should be
Yeah.
over it. You're remarried. You're fine. You're fine. And so I think if I can help anyone who's listening with nothing else today but understanding that, that would be great great to know that I was able to do. And when you can really break it down into everyday things, right? All of your everyday personal and professional losses that you experience, you can take the stages of grief and kind of work your way, use those as a roadmap to get through it. And then it helps you like not be beat down, right? Oh, yeah, this event failed, or you're out this money, or your car broke down, oh, this person broke up with you, oh, you lost that job. Great. You're gonna, you're gonna deny it, you're gonna be angry, you're gonna bargain, you're gonna do all these things, you're gonna pitch and you're gonna sulk and you're gonna but you do it at the speed of light. At the speed of
Yeah.
light once you recognize it.
Yeah. That's the important. Yeah, that's super important. So
Yeah.
as you guys are listening to this, it's not that the steps change, it's the speed at which you go through the steps, which then it allows you to move on, what not move on, but
Yeah.
move
Move forward, move through
move
it.
forward. Yes, exactly. So now I want to talk about what you're doing these days. So I I know you're speaking all over the place. I know that you're sharing your story and everything, but something that you really love. And guys, as you're listening to her talk, I don't know if you're hearing this, but let me point it out right now. The way that she speaks, you can visualize what she's speaking about, right? So like as she's speaking, you're picturing things. Like she's very, very, very good with words. And so what she's doing these days is you're actually it's ghostwriting, yeah? Ghostwriting other people's books for them, yeah?
Yep, this is a brand new thing. I actually, it was like last March that I started. I'm like, I'm just gonna like turn into this. You keep saying like, what am I supposed to do? I'm trying this. I'm trying that. I don't regret a single thing that Dave and I have done with our syndicate, with our podcast, with our events. We have impacted lives. We have learned. We have grown. We have achieved things. I am a much stronger, smarter person because of it. Like so, all of those things. It's time to move into something else, and maybe we get to revisit that from a place of strength. It's not off. It's over here for a minute, right?
Yeah.
I love writing. I've been helping people write over the years. Hey Barb, can you help me edit this? Hey Barb, I'm like helping people outline their books. They don't understand because I have 3 books of my own that I put out.
Yeah.
Um, and and I love them. you know, obviously, who's not going to love you? You have to love your book, right?
Yeah.
But so I have 3 books of my own that I put out, and over the years, people are like, "Can you help me? Like, I don't know. I want to write a book. I don't know how." And I'm like, "Oh, here's." So I made an outline, like a little template from like, and I've just been giving this template out, and people are like, "Oh, that's great." Now I'm like, then I started like coaching people unofficially, like,
Yeah.
like the mastermind calls. We're all going to help each other. Only it's me. I'm helping people write their books, right?
Yeah.
And can you still see me?
Yeah.
I just
Did
had a,
your lights go out?
I just had,
Oh.
yes, yes. Woo, we have quite a storm here, so
Oh my word.
I'm not purposely leaving you if I go bye bye.
Okay. Well, we'll wrap it up. We'll wrap it up. But I want to hear about the book thing.
So that's it. So then I started like unofficially helping people, and then I wound up rewriting somebody's book for them last year that they paid somebody to do, and they did a terrible job. And Dave was like, "Barb, why are you not doing this? Like, you are a
Thank you.
writer. You need to start charging people and be a writer." And I'm like, all right, great. So I think this is my 4th book I'm on this year, between editing or coaching people through or rewriting. And this is a full-on ghostwrite. This one will be about 50 to 60,000 words, and it's a hard one. And I love it. Love it. I love get helping people learn how to write their books. You know, how many times have you heard, "Oh, I've always wanted to write a book," right? Or people want to write a book, but they don't know how. And so I also started teaching workshops on how to write your own book. If you can't afford to hire a writer to work with you, I can coach you through helping you write your own book. And I don't think there's a single person out there who feels like they have a book in them to write that shouldn't write their book.
Yeah.
If you feel it, you should write it. My first book started as a diary. I wasn't going to publish it as a book. I was writing it as a diary so that when my kids got older, they could read it and maybe forgive me for whatever it was. If they knew what I was going through, maybe they would look back with a kinder lens. Is what that's really why I wrote it. And I wound up publishing it, and I'm so glad I did. And so, the 2 that came after that, I also love. And so I think whether you are, and I'm going to say just in quotes because I don't think anybody is just anything. So if you're not watching this and you're listening, just is in quotes, and never refer to yourself as just anything unless you're putting it in quotes.
Yeah.
So the quote, the just the mom or just this or just that, you have something of value to offer people. I love sitting down with people who think they have nothing to offer, right? And within 30 minutes, they realize, oh my gosh, I have so much wisdom and insight to offer, whether it's 50 people in your church community who could use a 50-page booklet, or whether it's the world at large. You can put it out there. There's a couple 100,000 books published every year, and maybe only 10 people will read yours. But for those 10 people, you are impacting them. And is that not what it is all about, right? Um, why do you want to tell your story like that? And if you are leading with intent and you are doing this genuinely out of a heart to impart your knowledge onto someone, you should write a book for the person that you were when you needed the book, right?
Yeah.
And so I love doing that. I love doing it. And this book I'm writing on is something else. This is a wild book, but like an expose or whatever. It's crazy. But
Oh my gosh, an expose. You need to message me when it's done.
like sometimes I see a news story and I'm like, oh, that's the book I'm writing. Like it's in the news today, a little bit of it. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I'm writing that book right now. So it's like crazy.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so you just don't know where it leads. And now I'm up here in the Adirondacks in our house that needs a lot of renovation that we bought as an investment, but we can't renovate yet. And I'm writing. Like Dave supports me. Dave, I remarried. People don't know, we got remarried last fall, and he supports me. He's like, go up for a couple days and write. And so I'm going to knock out another 25,000 words by the time I leave here on Sunday, and that'll be caught up to my client. Like, so who gets to do that, Martha? Who gets to do that?
Who
Unless you
gets to do that? Just us weirdos, right? Just
just
the
weirdos,
weirdos that,
just
I mean, I
weirdos.
love that it comes back to that, where it's just, it, we don't do life like everybody else does. And for people that are listening, you don't either. And it's totally okay. It's totally fine. You got to make friends with other people that don't do it so you can just bloom and be you.
Yeah. And that might be the silver lining in going through something traumatic, because once you go through something traumatic and you come out the other side, you are different, right? It's like you are walking this life, you are picked up, you're like the claw game, the claw
Yes.
machine where you
Yeah.
right. So it's like you're hanging out with all your buddies and the claw comes in and picks you up and takes you out. Maybe you drop in another. You still see all your buddies, you like them, but you're in a different machine now, right? Right?
Yeah.
Like you're
Yeah.
not in that world anymore. You have been removed. And so you should no longer, you shouldn't try to perform in a world that's not yours, right? Like find your world and perform in it. And so once you go through something like severe and you come out the other side, none of the other, you just brush off the other stuff. Oh, somebody laughed at me. All right. I'm like, oh, I failed this. This took longer. Okay. Oh, somebody's like, I have to say I can't do this anymore, or this didn't work out. They're like, you stop caring what people
Yeah.
think. You stop letting it like hold you back, right? And you
Yes.
find people like you and in your community. And I couldn't do what you do. I don't understand it. I tried, Martha. You blew all my circuits. You blew all my circuits. They went, and I'm like, she's like boom, 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 and I'm like shoot, they just boom. But what I pull from you, and even when I watch you on your lives and all this, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop watching Martha to learn her content, because that's not for me. I'm
Yeah.
watching Martha to learn from Martha, to capture her energy, to see how she connects with her community, and how her community responds to her, and what hits and what doesn't, and how she encourages people, and how she shows up every day at 10 a.m., even if she sits on a chair and it falls backward on her, right? She gets and she does it. And so we can learn from people in all different ways. And you got to learn from people who are living the life that you want to live, even if it's not the niche that you want to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. It's so beautiful to, and then I'll let you tend to your storm over there. But I don't want to be the girl who like acts like there's not, a tsunami happening over there. Like I'm totally oblivious. Like I get that you got a situation going on there.
It's
I'm just trying to gracefully wrap this thing up.
great.
But it's I think the most important thing is, and I did a live about this earlier today, is just like to have our community, right? To be able to be around each other, and that we don't all do the same thing, and we don't, but just the sheer fact that we are around each other and still supporting each other, that's all that matters. It's all that matters. It gives us like it's why we're all here at the same time, in my opinion, is to gravitate to the other ones that are like us, the other sort of misfits, as Steve would say, that are like us, to be able to support and up level each other, so we can support and up level other people. Like it's everything. It's everything. Um, Thank you, lady, my storm lady, for coming on today and talking about all the stuff that you talked about. Um, I appreciate you just digging deep and having that conversation, which again, I was like, oh my gosh, why did I just ask you that? But I'm so glad that we went into it, because I feel like there are people that are going through, even in present, going through trauma, that are not allowing themselves to move through it. Like they're just, they go into numb mode, and
Yeah.
then they just go and they don't allow themselves to move through it. So I love that you went through kind of tactically how what it looks like to move through that. And then sharing about like what you're doing now. Guys, if you're listening and you want to reach out to her about a book, about a workshop, or whatever, we're going to have all of her info in show notes or in the caption, depending on where you're watching this or listening to this. But you'll be able to follow her on all of the places. So, what's the last thing that you want to tell people before we pop out of here and you go, hunker down?
um I think we've covered a lot of the important stuff, Martha. I think, and especially for your audience, I don't know where they are in their stage of evolution. We're all in a different stage of our own evolution, right? So where are they in the stage of evolution in terms of like, if you're someone sitting there listening and like, I want to do this, I don't know how, I'm afraid to do this, I don't know, like that is, don't let any of that stop you from doing whatever it is you want to do. It's your life. You only get to experience it once, here. And so just make sure you find the people who are going to lead you down the path that you want to go. And I think, Martha, I think you're a great example of that. So that would be it. I'm glad you found Martha. I hope you stay, connected with her and listening to her and dial into her magic because you got some good mojo, Martha. Martha's
Oh,
mojo.
oh, shucks. Well, thank you, lady. Everybody, you have the best rest of your day. We're all going to give all the good vibes, even in the future, whenever you're listening to this, to Barb and her house in the Adirondacks that isn't going to be blown over today. So there's that. Thank you, Barb. Everybody, you have the best one. See you
Thank
next
you,
time.
Martha.